sirens started wailing about 13 minutes ago, and I can already hear the first gunshots echoing off the buildings outside. Listen carefully, because tonight might be my last broadcast. Tonight is the 47th Annual Purge, and if you're just tuning in, you need to understand what's happening out there. The council just finished their announcement. 12 hours of legal killing starts now. 12 hours where every law, every protection, every basic human right gets suspended so the ruling families can clean house. I know some of you think this is just another night of madness, but it's not. This is systematic elimination disguised as chaos. The 5 families didn't stumble into this system. They designed it, refined it, and now they use it like a blade to cut away anyone who threatens their control. My name is Michael Turner, and I've been documenting this nightmare for 3 years now. My wife Amanda was taken during the 44th Purge for what they called economic crimes. Her real crime was running an underground food kitchen for families who couldn't afford the rationed meals. 3 years ago, I was just another journalist working for the state media division, writing sanitized reports about market efficiency and population optimization. I believed their lies about the purge being necessary for social stability. Then I started digging deeper, started asking questions about the disposal statistics, the targeting patterns, the medical reports. What I found changed everything I thought I knew about our world. The Great Collapse happened in 2087, 38 years ago. The old governments crumbled under debt, climate disasters, and resource wars. That's when the 5 families stepped in. They promised order, efficiency, and survival. What they delivered was a feudal system where human life became another commodity to be managed. These weren't politicians or elected officials. They were wealthy dynasties who saw chaos as a business opportunity. Marcus Whitfield was my mentor back then, who taught me everything I know about finding truth behind official lies. He discovered the original planning documents for what became the Purge system. 23 different organizations initially bid for the contract to design population management protocols. The winning proposal came from a private security firm that specialized in what they called social optimization programs. The first purge wasn't called a purge. They called it emergency population adjustment, and the marketing people really outdid themselves with that name. They sold it as a temporary measure, just one night to eliminate the most dangerous criminal elements, while emergency services focused on protecting productive citizens. The public bought it because they were scared, hungry, and desperate for someone to promise them safety. But here's what they didn't tell anyone. The targeting wasn't random. Advanced computer systems had already identified every person marked for elimination. Political dissidents, union organizers, people with excessive medical costs, families behind on debt payments, anyone who had spoken out against the new system. The chaos was manufactured to hide how planned the killings really were. Marcus tried to publish the story, but state media killed it before it could run. 3 days later, Marcus died in what they called a random street crime during the 5th Annual Purge. That's when I understood that the chaos outside isn't random violence. It's carefully orchestrated population control disguised as civil unrest. The security forces aren't trying to stop the killing, they're managing it. They have target lists, elimination quotas, and disposal protocols. Every person who dies tonight was selected months ago by computer programs that analyze social media posts, purchase histories, medical records, and employment data. The algorithms look for patterns that suggest someone might become a problem for the ruling system. Jason Brooks contacted me 2 years ago through encrypted channels. He works inside government communications and started feeding me intelligence about purge planning operations. According to Jason, each purge costs about 800 million credits to organize, but it saves them over 4 billion credits annually in reduced social services, healthcare costs, and wage expenses. From their perspective, it's the most profitable night of the year. The first casualty report just came through our resistance network. Emily Carter, a high school teacher in Sector 7, was killed at 11:53 p.m. Emily wasn't some dangerous criminal. She was marked because she refused to teach the approved curriculum that portrayed the purge system as necessary for social stability. Her students loved her because she taught them real history, not the sanitized version where the takeover was portrayed as humanity's salvation. I can hear more gunfire now, and the emergency broadcast system keeps repeating the same message every 15 minutes. All emergency services are suspended for the next 11 hours and 47 minutes. The ruling council wishes all participants a productive and efficient purge experience. They talk about mass murder like it's a quarterly business report. The resistance network I'm connected to started forming after the 10th purge, when enough people realized that hiding and hoping wasn't enough anymore. We're not violent revolutionaries. We're teachers, nurses, mechanics, store clerks, people who've lost too much to stay silent. Our job isn't to fight the security forces with weapons we don't have. Our job is to document what really happens during these 12 hours and make sure someone remembers the names of the people who die. Amanda tried to tell me I was being naive when I first started questioning the system. She said the ruling families were too powerful, too entrenched, too ruthless to challenge. But she kept running her underground kitchen anyway, kept feeding families even after welfare services cut their rations. She knew the risks, but she couldn't watch children go hungry while the wealthy lived in luxury towers with private security and unlimited resources. The night they took Amanda, I was working late at the media building, editing a story about improved efficiency in waste disposal systems. I didn't know then that waste disposal was code for body processing. I came home to find our apartment ransacked and a security notice on the door stating that Amanda Turner had been detained for unauthorized resource distribution and economic sabotage. The next morning, state media announced that several economic criminals had been eliminated during routine purge activities. That's when I started this broadcast. Not because I thought I could save the world, but because someone needed to say their names out loud. Emily Carter died tonight, but she existed. She mattered. She tried to teach children that they deserved better than this system. Marcus Whitfield died 3 years ago, but he spent his life fighting for truth even when truth became illegal. Amanda Turner died 2 years ago, but she fed hungry families because she believed that basic human decency was more important than profit margins. The ruling council wants you to think tonight is about eliminating dangerous elements and maintaining social order. They want you to believe that the people who die somehow deserved it, that the system only targets criminals and unproductive citizens. But I've seen the targeting algorithms thanks to people like Jason Brooks who risk everything to get this information out. The system targets anyone who questions authority, anyone who helps others without official approval, anyone whose continued existence costs more than their economic contribution. You can hear the helicopters now. Security forces are deploying throughout the city. They're not here to protect innocent people from random violence. They're here to ensure that the right people die and the wrong people survive. Every security officer carries a list of high-priority targets, and those lists were compiled months ago by data analysts who've never met the people they're condemning to death. The temperature outside is dropping, and I can see smoke rising from at least 6 different locations across the city. Some of that smoke comes from resistant safe houses that were discovered and attacked. Some comes from government facilities that are being used as elimination centers. And some comes from ordinary buildings where ordinary people are dying because they couldn't pay their medical bills or their housing loans or their education debts. What makes this system so effective is how it turns people against each other. Neighbors report neighbors for extra food rations. Family members betray family members for better housing assignments. The purge isn't just about the government eliminating threats. It's about creating a society where everyone is constantly afraid of everyone else. I'll keep broadcasting as long as I can tonight, telling you what's really happening out there, sharing the stories of people who died because they dared to believe that human beings deserve better than this. Their names matter, their lives mattered, and forgetting them is exactly what the people in power want us to do. This is Michael Turner, still on the air from underground. It's now 1:37 a.m., and the killing has truly begun. I've been getting reports through our resistance network, and what's happening out there is beyond anything we've seen in previous purges. The security forces aren't just managing the chaos anymore, they're leading it. Just got word from Daniel Foster, one of our contacts inside the security apparatus. Daniel's been feeding us intelligence for 8 months now, walking a tightrope between maintaining his cover and keeping us informed. According to his latest transmission, government forces received updated target lists 3 days ago with over 40,000 names. That's twice the usual number. Something big is happening tonight, something the ruling families have been planning for months. The worst news came in about 20 minutes ago from Bradley Avenue in Sector 4. Nathaniel Hayes, one of the senior security commanders, led a full assault team against an entire residential block. These weren't random attacks or opportunistic violence. This was a coordinated military operation against families who were behind on their medical debt payments. Chloe Patterson lived on that block with her parents, and I know her personally because she used to live 3 apartments down from Amanda and me. Chloe just graduated from high school 2 months ago. Bright kid, wanted to study medicine before the education system priced her family out of advanced schooling. Her parents, Robert and Marie Patterson, both worked double shifts at the textile processing plant, but Robert's cancer treatments last year put them so far in debt that welfare services cut their housing subsidies. The Pattersons weren't criminals or dissidents. They were just a family trying to survive in a system designed to crush people like them. Daniel Foster was part of the assault team that hit Bradley Avenue, and he managed to get a message to us through our encrypted network. The security forces had detailed floor plans of every apartment, medical records for every resident, and specific instructions about which family members to prioritize for elimination. This wasn't chaos, it was extermination with paperwork. The Pattersons barricaded themselves in their apartment when they heard the assault teams coming. Robert was too weak from his treatments to run, and Marie refused to leave him behind. They held the door for almost an hour while Chloe escaped through a bathroom window and made it to one of our safe houses in Sector 6. But her parents never had a chance. The security forces don't negotiate, don't accept surrenders, and don't show mercy to people who can't pay their bills. But it's not just government forces doing the killing tonight. Ryan Mitchell has been using the chaos to settle personal scores. Mitchell manages a mid-level department in the administrative sector, and he discovered that Christopher Dean, one of his subordinates, had been documenting financial irregularities in their budget allocations. Instead of facing an internal investigation for embezzlement, Mitchell decided to use Purge Night to eliminate the evidence and the witness. Christopher Dean was a good man, a single father raising his daughter Lauren after his wife died in a medical facility 3 years ago. Dean worked in budget accounting and started noticing discrepancies in funding allocations for social services. Money that was supposed to fund food assistance and medical care was being diverted to executive bonuses and security operations. Dean kept detailed records because he thought someone in oversight would want to investigate. Mitchell tracked Dean to his apartment in Sector 2 and spent over an hour tormenting him before the final elimination. This wasn't a quick death. Mitchell wanted Dean to suffer, wanted him to regret ever questioning financial practices. Lauren Dean, who's only 16 years old, was hiding in a bedroom closet the entire time, listening to her father being tortured and killed by his own supervisor. Lauren managed to escape after Mitchell left, and she made it to one of our safe houses with a data storage device containing all of her father's financial evidence. The information she carried proves that administrators have been stealing millions of credits from social welfare programs while simultaneously using the purge to eliminate people who couldn't afford basic necessities. It's fraud and murder combined into one efficient system. Jessica Monroe leads something called Strike Team 7, and according to our intelligence network, her team has eliminated over 200 people in the first 3 hours. Monroe used to be a decorated military officer before the transition, and now she uses those same skills to hunt disabled veterans, elderly citizens, and unemployed families. Her unit operates like a death squad with government funding and legal immunity. What's particularly disturbing about Monroe's operation is how methodically they work. They're not driven by rage or ideology. They approach elimination like any other job assignment. Monroe carries a tablet with target information, completion statistics, and efficiency ratings for each operation. She talks about human beings the same way Amanda used to talk about inventory management at the food distribution center where she worked. The Resistance Network is taking heavy casualties tonight. Rachel Bennett, who coordinates our safe house operations, reports that 7 of our 23 locations have been discovered and attacked. The security apparatus is using advanced surveillance technology and paid informants to track down anyone who's been helping families hide during previous purges. Brandon Pierce was killed defending our medical supply depot in Sector 9. Brandon wasn't a soldier or a violent revolutionary. He was a mechanic who used to repair government vehicles until he was laid off during efficiency improvements last year. He joined our resistance network because he had skills we needed and nowhere else to go. Brandon held off a full security assault team long enough for other resistance members to evacuate with medical supplies and communication equipment. His sacrifice saved dozens of lives, but the cost keeps getting higher every year. We're not trained fighters. we're not equipped for military operations, and we're certainly not prepared for the level of systematic violence that security forces are deploying tonight. Every person we lose is someone's father, someone's sister, someone's friend, who decided that helping others was worth risking their own life. But the most heartbreaking stories are coming from ordinary citizens who've turned against their neighbors. Margaret Holloway lives in Sector 3, and she's been reporting families to the authorities in exchange for extra food rations. Tonight, she led security forces to the Caldwell family's apartment because they'd been sharing their medical supplies with elderly residents in their building. Aaron Caldwell was a retired teacher who spent his pension helping neighbors pay for prescription medications. His wife Sarah ran a small library out of their apartment, lending books to children whose families couldn't afford the fees charged by official education centers. The Caldwells weren't political activists or dangerous dissidents. They were just decent people who couldn't watch their neighbors suffer. Margaret Holloway knew exactly what would happen when she reported the Caldwells, but she needed the reward credits to buy insulin for her diabetic son. The system has created impossible choices where good people have to betray other good people just to keep their families alive. Holloway isn't a monster. She's a desperate mother who's been forced to participate in a system that turns survival into a zero-sum game. Olivia Harmon runs our medical operations from a converted basement clinic in Sector 5. She's a former government medical technician who lost her position after refusing to participate in what the health department calls efficiency consultations, meetings where medical staff decide which patients are worth treating based on their economic productivity. Tonight, Olivia is treating gunshot wounds, burns, and trauma injuries with supplies that were supposed to last 6 months. The children are the worst part of all this. Ethan Walsh is 16 years old, and both of his parents were eliminated in the first hour of tonight's purge. His father worked at a waste processing facility and had been asking questions about unusual chemical disposal procedures. His mother was a part-time teacher who refused to use approved textbooks that portrayed the purge system as necessary for social stability. Ethan survived because he wasn't home when security forces came for his family. He was at a friend's house studying for placement exams that would determine whether he qualified for vocational training or immediate workforce assignment. Now he's hiding in one of our safe houses with Abigail Rhodes, a 14-year-old girl whose parents were eliminated during last year's purge. Tyler Scott serves as a lieutenant in one of the security divisions, and he's particularly dangerous because he used to be a police detective before the government change. Scott knows how people think when they're running, where they hide, how they try to escape. He's been tracking my broadcasts for months, using signal analysis equipment to narrow down my location. The fact that I'm still alive means either he's not as good as he thinks, or I'm walking into a trap. Daniel Foster just sent another encrypted message with intelligence about security operations for the rest of the night. According to internal communications, the security apparatus has identified several high-priority resistance members and plans to eliminate them before dawn. I'm not on that list yet, but several people who've been helping coordinate our network are marked for immediate elimination. The intelligence also revealed something that changes everything we thought we knew about the purge system. Security forces aren't just eliminating people randomly or even systematically. They're collecting detailed medical information about everyone they kill. Blood samples, tissue samples, and complete medical histories are being transmitted to medical facilities for analysis and storage. I've been broadcasting for over 2 hours now, and I can hear security vehicles getting closer to my location. The building above me used to house a media office where I worked for 8 years, writing stories that supported the system I now spend every night fighting against. Tonight I'm hiding in the basement archives, surrounded by thousands of press releases that justified each escalation of the Purge program. This is Michael Turner, still on the air from underground. It's 2:11 a.m., and we have 9 hours and 49 minutes until the ruling council declares this purge officially completed. But the killing won't stop at 6 a.m. It never does. The systematic elimination of inconvenient people continues every day through medical efficiency protocols, housing optimization programs, and employment productivity requirements. The purge is just the one night each year when they stop pretending that any of this is legal, moral, or necessary. Tomorrow morning, state media will report that last night's activities resulted in improved social efficiency and reduced resource allocation requirements. They won't mention Christopher Dean or the Patterson family, or Brandon Pierce, or any of the thousands of people whose only crime was existing in a system that values efficiency more than human life. Stay hidden, stay quiet, and remember their names. Because every person who dies tonight was someone's whole world, and forgetting them is exactly what the ruling families want us to do. The hunt has intensified beyond anything we've seen before. Professional killing teams are using military-grade tracking equipment, and they're not just hunting resistance members anymore. They're hunting anyone who might become a problem in the coming year. I need to move soon. The security vehicles I mentioned earlier are now positioned at both ends of this block, and I can hear boots on the floors above me. But before I relocate, I need to tell you about what's happening across the city, because the pattern is becoming clear, and it's worse than we thought. Megan Holloway commands a specialized hunting unit, and according to Daniel Foster's latest intelligence, her team focuses on eliminating former government employees who've turned against the system. Holloway used to work in human resources, where she managed employee termination procedures. Now she applies those same organizational skills to literal termination operations. She keeps detailed files on every target, their habits, their relationships, their psychological profiles. What makes Holloway particularly dangerous is her understanding of how bureaucrats think. She knows we keep backup plans, maintain contact networks, and document everything we do. She's been systematically dismantling resistance cells by targeting the people who handle our record-keeping and communication systems. 3 of our archive coordinators have been eliminated in the past 2 hours. The civilian population is turning against itself in ways that go beyond simple survival. Dr. Jacob Reynolds worked as a medical administrator for 15 years, managing patient care protocols and resource allocation. Yesterday morning, he discovered his name on an internal elimination list labeled Workforce Optimization. The medical system had been planning to eliminate hundreds of their own staff members who knew too much about treatment rationing and patient abandonment policies. Jacob's been running through the city for 5 hours now, using his medical clearance codes to move through hospital buildings that should be secure. But his former colleagues are hunting him just as aggressively as the official security teams. Madison Clark, who used to work in his department, saved his life by warning him about the elimination order. She discovered that medical administration had been marking their own employees for purge elimination to prevent them from exposing patient care scandals. The medical elimination program explains why tonight's purge has been so much more organized than previous years. They're not just managing random violence, they're implementing a comprehensive witness elimination plan that includes removing both external threats and internal whistleblowers who might expose systematic malpractice and patient abandonment. But the most disturbing development tonight is how ordinary people have embraced the killing. Samuel Grant, who runs a small electronics repair shop in Sector 8, has been using tonight to eliminate his business competitors. Grant isn't being forced to kill by government pressure or economic desperation. He genuinely believes that eliminating other repair shop owners will improve his market position. Grant has killed 4 business owners in the past 3 hours, and he's been documenting their deaths on social media platforms that remain active during purge operations. He posts photos of his victims with captions about improving local commerce and reducing market competition. Grant represents something even more terrifying than government oppression. He represents citizens who've internalized the system's values so completely that they view murder as legitimate business strategy. Kyle Davidson contacted me through encrypted channels 3 hours ago with information that changes our understanding of the entire purge system. Kyle used to work inside the medical logistics department before his conscience got the better of him, and he's been documenting what really happens to the people who die during purge operations. According to Kyle's intelligence, the security forces aren't just eliminating people, they're harvesting them. Every person killed during purge operations is processed through medical facilities where organs, tissues, and blood products are extracted and prepared for commercial sale. The ruling families have been operating the world's largest organ trafficking network, disguised as population control policy. The harvesting operation is run by Dr. Sophia Green, a former military surgeon who applies battlefield medical techniques to mass casualty processing. Under her supervision, medical teams can process hundreds of bodies per hour, extracting valuable biological materials that are sold to wealthy clients around the world. Green treats human bodies like any other natural resource, something to be efficiently harvested and processed for maximum profit. This intelligence explains why certain people are targeted for elimination while others are ignored. The targeting algorithms don't just analyze political risk and economic productivity, they also evaluate medical profiles to identify people with healthy organs, rare blood types, and valuable tissue compatibility. The purge system has been selecting people for murder based partly on how much money their bodies can generate after death. Nathaniel Hayes leads the security forces coordinating the harvesting operations, and he's been personally overseeing the elimination of high-value medical targets. Hayes isn't motivated by political ideology or social control theories. He's running a business operation that generates billions of credits in annual revenue from human organ sales. The resistance network is fragmenting under pressure from both official security forces and civilian informants. Victoria Hayes, who handles communications for our Eastern operational cells, reports that 12 of our safe houses have been discovered, not through surveillance or infiltration, but through reports from neighbors who recognized resistance members and decided to claim the reward money. Logan Barrett, one of our field operatives, was captured 4 hours ago while trying to gather intelligence about medical processing operations in Sector 7. According to our sources, Barrett is being held at a detention facility where they're using enhanced interrogation techniques to extract information about our network structure and operational capabilities. But Barrett's capture revealed something unexpected about the security apparatus. The interrogation teams aren't just trying to destroy our resistance network, they're also recruiting from it. Several captured resistance members have been offered positions in the security forces in exchange for betraying their former colleagues. Some have accepted these offers, believing that working within the system gives them better chances of survival. Natalie Ross handles intelligence analysis for our network, and she's been trying to map the full scope of the organ trafficking operation using Kyle Davidson's information and other sources. According to her analysis, medical processing facilities exist in every major district, with the capacity to handle thousands of bodies during each purge operation. The scope of this harvesting system is overwhelming. We're not just fighting against political oppression or social control. We're fighting against an industrial operation that murders people to harvest their bodies for profit. The ruling families have created a system where human beings are literally worth more dead than alive, and they've convinced citizens that this represents efficient resource management. Aaron Caldwell leads our demolitions operations, and he's been planning to destroy the medical facilities where the organ harvesting takes place. But Aaron's team discovered that the processing centers are defended not just by security forces, but by civilian volunteers who've been convinced that the harvesting operation represents legitimate medical research. Christopher Dean's daughter, Lauren, who escaped with her father's financial records, has been analyzing budget documents that prove the organ trafficking generates more revenue than any other government operation. The biological materials harvested during each purge fund the entire administrative system for the following year, including security operations, surveillance technology, and civilian reward programs. The harvesting operation also explains why the purge has become an annual tradition rather than an occasional emergency measure. The ruling families need those organs, tissues, and blood products to maintain their commercial relationships with wealthy clients who pay premium prices for high-quality biological materials. The purge isn't just population control, it's inventory management for human body parts. Tyler Scott, who's been tracking my broadcasts, sent a message through channels that suggests he might be willing to defect from the security forces. According to his communication, several security officers have become disturbed by the organ harvesting operations and are considering providing intelligence to resistance networks. But we can't verify whether this represents a genuine defection opportunity or an infiltration attempt. I can hear them getting closer to my location now. The building above me is being systematically searched by professional tracking teams who know exactly how to hunt people like me. But before I move to my backup broadcast position, I want you to understand what we're really fighting against tonight. Daniel Foster's cover was blown 2 hours ago, and he's now being hunted by the same forces he used to serve. His final intelligence transmission contained detailed information about medical processing facilities and harvesting operations that will help us plan whatever response we can manage with our remaining resources. Samuel Grant, who I mentioned earlier as the electronics shop owner killing his competitors, made a crucial mistake 2 hours ago. He posted video footage of his victims on social media, but he also accidentally recorded the medical teams that arrived to collect the bodies. And that video has been spreading through underground networks faster than the authorities can suppress it. The video changes everything because it proves what Kyle Davidson told us about the organ trafficking operation. Citizens who supported the purge because they believed it eliminated dangerous criminals are now seeing evidence that the system is literally butchering people for profit. Even some government supporters are beginning to question. Rachel Bennett, our Safe House coordinator, reports that civilian resistance is emerging in districts that have never opposed the government before. Families who used to hide during purge night are now actively helping resistance members evade security forces. More importantly, some civilians are beginning to attack the medical processing teams that come to collect bodies. Tyler Scott, the lieutenant I mentioned who might be willing to defect, confirmed his allegiance to our cause by eliminating Nathaniel Hayes, the security commander who had been coordinating the organ trafficking operations. Scott used his insider access to poison Hayes during a command briefing, then transmitted all of Hayes' operational files to our intelligence network before disappearing into the underground tunnel system. The intelligence from Hayes' files reveals the full scope of the harvesting operation. Over the past 10 years, medical processing facilities have generated more than 50 billion credits in revenue from organ sales. Aaron Caldwell's demolitions team succeeded in destroying the main medical processing facility in Sector 4, but the cost was enormous. Caldwell himself was killed in the explosion, along with 6 other resistance members. However, their sacrifice eliminated the harvesting capability for the entire Eastern District and freed nearly 300 people who were being held as long-term organ donors. The explosion also destroyed computer servers containing harvesting records for the past 5 years, including client lists, financial transactions, and operational protocols. Without those records, the ruling families have lost the ability to coordinate their organ trafficking network with international buyers. Natalie Ross, our intelligence analyst, used the chaos following the explosion to infiltrate the central communication hub and broadcast evidence of the organ harvesting operation on all official media channels. For 12 minutes, every television and radio station in the city transmitted financial records proving the trafficking operation and recorded conversations between government officials discussing elimination quotas. The broadcast had immediate effects across the city. Civilians who had been supporting security operations began attacking elimination teams. Government employees started defecting to resistance networks. Most importantly, several security units refused orders to continue harvesting operations and began protecting civilians instead of hunting them. Madison Clark, the medical administrator who warned Jacob Reynolds about his elimination order, has been leading a group of former government employees who are using their insider knowledge to sabotage the harvesting system from within. Clark's team has been accessing medical databases to alter target lists, redirecting elimination teams to wrong locations, and providing resistance networks with real-time intelligence about security movements. Victoria Hayes, our Eastern Communications Coordinator, established contact with resistance networks in 3 other cities and discovered that similar organ trafficking operations exist throughout the country. The harvesting system isn't unique to our city. It's a national program that generates hundreds of billions of credits annually for the ruling families. More encouraging is the intelligence that resistance movements in other cities are coordinating their own rebellion operations tonight. The ruling families are facing simultaneous uprisings in 7 major population centers, and their security forces are being overwhelmed by the scope of the coordinated resistance. Logan Barrett, who was captured and interrogated 4 hours ago, managed to escape during the confusion following Caldwell's explosion. Barrett brought intelligence about a massive medical processing facility hidden beneath the government administrative complex, where hundreds of political prisoners have been held as organ donors for years. The underground facility contains detailed records of every person who disappeared during previous purges, including Amanda. Barrett's intelligence confirms that Amanda is still alive, barely, being used as a long-term donor in the facility's experimental medical program. She's been kept unconscious for 2 years, while medical teams harvest renewable tissues and test experimental procedures. This is the moment I've been preparing for during 3 years of resistance work. Every broadcast, every intelligence report, every small act of defiance has led to this opportunity. The security forces are in chaos, the harvesting system is being exposed to the public, and we finally have a chance to strike at the heart of the organ trafficking operation. Christopher Dean's daughter, Lauren, has been analyzing the financial records her father died protecting, and she discovered something that could destroy the entire ruling system. The organ trafficking revenue isn't just funding government operations, it's also being used to bribe international leaders and purchase military equipment from foreign suppliers. If we can expose the international connections, we can turn foreign governments against the ruling families and cut off their external support networks. Lauren's financial analysis proves that several neighboring countries have been complicit in the organ trafficking by providing transportation, banking services, and customer bases for harvested biological materials. Kyle Davidson risked his life to transmit blueprints of the underground medical facility, including security protocols, staff schedules, and prisoner locations. With this intelligence, we're planning a coordinated assault to free the organ donor prisoners and destroy the facility's harvesting equipment. But the assault will require sacrificing our remaining safe houses and communication networks. Every resistance member who participates in the attack will be exposed to retaliation, and most of us won't survive the aftermath. We're trading the long-term survival of our resistance network for one chance to expose the truth and free the victims. Olivia Harmon, our medical coordinator, has been treating wounded resistance members while simultaneously training civilian volunteers to provide medical support during the facility assault. Harmon knows that freeing hundreds of organ donor prisoners will create a medical crisis that requires immediate treatment for victims who've been subjected to experimental procedures for years. This is Michael Turner, broadcasting on underground radio frequency 77.3. It's 5:37 a.m., and we have 6 hours and 23 minutes until the official end of purge operations. But tonight won't end with the usual return to normalcy. We've exposed the organ trafficking system, freed hundreds of victims. The resistance has evolved from a survival network into a revolutionary force. We're no longer just documenting atrocities and helping people hide. We're actively destroying the infrastructure of systematic murder and organ harvesting. The cost has been enormous, but we've finally created real hope for ending this nightmare. assault on the underground medical facility began an hour ago, and what we found beneath the administrative building defies every definition of human decency. Kyle Davidson's blueprints were accurate, but they couldn't prepare us for the reality of what Dr. Sophia Green had created down there. Hundreds of people, including children, kept alive in medical restraints. Amanda was in Section C, Ward 7, connected to machines that kept her unconscious while medical procedures were performed on a rotating schedule. When I found her, she had been reduced to barely 60 pounds, missing organs, skin grafts, and bone marrow that had been harvested systematically over 2 years. She was awake when I reached her, and she recognized me despite everything they had done to her body. Jessica Monroe led the assault team that cleared the security forces from the facility entrance. Monroe fought with the intensity of someone who had discovered that everything she believed about serving her government was a lie. Her military training made the difference between success and failure. Without her tactical knowledge and security access codes, we never could have reached the prisoners. The facility contained detailed records of every person who had disappeared during the past 10 years of purge operations. The medical staff kept meticulous documentation of every procedure, every harvest, every death. But the most disturbing discovery was the client list. The international buyers included government officials, business leaders, and medical researchers who paid premium prices for biological materials taken from unwilling donors. Hannah Morgan, the teenager who defected from Dylan Spencer's elimination campaign, used her social media intelligence network to broadcast the client information to international news organizations. Within minutes of her transmission, foreign governments were receiving evidence that their own officials had participated in organ trafficking from systematic murder operations. Madison Clark's team of former medical administrators provided crucial support during the facility assault by disabling security systems and redirecting government response teams to false locations. Clark herself was killed defending the computer servers that contained client records, but her sacrifice ensured that the evidence survived to reach international investigators. The prisoners we freed from the facility represent only a fraction of the people who disappeared during previous purges, but their testimony provides undeniable proof of the harvesting program. Many are too damaged to survive outside medical care, including Amanda, who spent her final conscious moments telling me about the other prisoners who didn't survive the experimental procedures. Tyler Scott's elimination of Nathaniel Hayes created chaos in the security command structure that allowed our assault to succeed, but Scott didn't survive the night. He was killed by loyalist security forces while defending civilian families in Sector 6. Scott's final transmission included access codes for government communication systems that enabled us to broadcast evidence of the organ trafficking to the entire country. Samuel Grant's accidental video footage has been viewed by millions of people through underground networks that the government couldn't suppress. Aaron Caldwell's sacrifice in destroying the main processing facility saved hundreds of lives, but the cost of victory keeps mounting. Olivia Harmon died treating wounded resistance members during the facility assault. Rachel Bennett was killed coordinating safe house evacuations. Brandon Pierce, Daniel Foster, Christopher Dean, Marcus Whitfield, and so many others gave their lives to expose this system. Victoria Hayes managed to establish communication with resistance networks in other cities, and coordinate simultaneous uprisings that overwhelmed government forces across the country. The ruling families are facing revolution in every major population center, and their security apparatus is collapsing as evidence of the organ trafficking spreads internationally. Logan Barrett survived the facility assault and has been documenting the evidence we discovered in the underground complex. Barrett's photographs of the harvesting equipment, prisoner restraints, and medical records will serve as proof for the international investigations that are already beginning in response to Hannah Morgan's intelligence broadcasts. Natalie Ross died in the final assault, but her intelligence analysis provided the tactical information that made victory possible. Ross identified the facility's vulnerabilities, predicted security response patterns, and coordinated timing for the synchronized attacks that prevented government forces from mounting effective resistance. Kyle Davidson was killed by security forces while defending civilian evacuation routes, but his technical knowledge enabled us to access the facility's computer systems and retrieve complete records of the harvesting operation. Davidson's sacrifice ensured that evidence of the organ trafficking will survive even if the ruling families attempt to destroy physical evidence. The international response has been swift and decisive. Foreign governments are severing diplomatic relationships with our ruling families, freezing financial assets, and demanding extradition of officials involved in organ trafficking. Military forces from neighboring countries are positioning near our borders, and international criminal investigators are requesting permission to examine the evidence we've recovered. But the personal cost of victory has been devastating. Amanda died in my arms 20 minutes ago, telling me that stopping the harvesting system was worth every sacrifice we made. She had been kept alive for 2 years specifically to serve as a long-term organ donor, subjected to procedures that gradually destroyed her body while generating millions of credits in revenue for the trafficking network. Lauren Dean, whose father Christopher died, protecting financial evidence that proved the international scope of the organ trafficking, has been working with foreign investigators to trace money transfers and identify buyers in other countries. Lauren's analysis reveals that the harvesting operation generated enough revenue to fund government operations in multiple countries that served as clients for biological materials. Dr. Sophia Green was captured during the facility assault, and her medical records document experimental procedures performed on thousands of victims over the past decade. Green's research notes reveal that the harvesting program was designed not just for organ sales, but also for medical experimentation on unwilling subjects who were kept alive specifically for research purposes. The evidence we've gathered proves that the purge system was never about population control or social stability. It was always about generating revenue from systematic murder and organ trafficking. Jessica Monroe survived the facility assault and has been coordinating with foreign military forces that are preparing humanitarian intervention operations. Monroe's military experience and insider knowledge of government security systems make her invaluable for planning the transition from revolutionary uprising to stable governance. The sun is rising now, and I can see government buildings burning across the city as citizens destroy the infrastructure of systematic murder. The official purge period ended at 6 a.m., but the revolution continues. The ruling families have lost control of the security apparatus, the international community has turned against them, and the evidence of organ trafficking has destroyed any legitimacy they claimed. This is Michael Turner, broadcasting on underground radio frequency 77.3, and I'm no longer an underground resistance operator. I'm documenting the end of a system that turned human beings into commodities and systematic murder into profitable business operations. The cost of revolution has been enormous. Almost every resistance member who started this fight is dead, including Amanda. But their sacrifice created something that the ruling families can never destroy: the truth about what they did to innocent people and international evidence that will prevent them from ever rebuilding their trafficking network. Tomorrow, foreign governments will begin the process of helping us rebuild without systematic murder as a foundation of social organization. There will be challenges, conflicts, and difficulties as we learn to function as a society that values human life rather than viewing people as biological resources. The revolution succeeded, but victory came at a price that included almost everyone I cared about. Amanda died believing that exposing the truth was worth any sacrifice. Marcus Whitfield, Christopher Dean, Aaron Caldwell, Jessica Monroe, Tyler Scott, and hundreds of others gave their lives to end systematic murder disguised as population control.